So this one's called "The Light Will Shine in the Darkness Until It Overcomes the Darkness." Because light always wins over all darkness and all evil. Positivity is definitely an alignment. It's like a mindset shift for victory. And it's coming to you, and it's a victory. And it's in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. And as anything else that has to deal with your growth and abilities, it will only try to bring them further into it will only try to bring these people into further sadness and troubles, because they are not going to be, unless they can do something, but chances are that they're not, because inwardly they can't be happy about your success. It's going to drive them crazy, because they could have shared those blessings with you, but instead they just wanted to mess with you. They could have stopped, they could have not. Things like that. But instead of that, they insisted on stealing every last one of them by proxy. And once they start achieving the things that they set out for to stop you from, and to block up your value of love, they won't be able to do the same things. But basically they'll be shooting themselves in the foot for doing all of that evil, and to try and devise others as to whom you were or who you are. They'll be trying to devise to others that you're not worthy of being taken any kind of advice from or anything like that. And it's because you're trying to improve, and you will improve here and there, and they'll suffer internally what they tried to impose upon you. So whenever your victory does come, or whenever you break through these ways that they're trying to take upon you, it really hurts their spirit, because they're like, oh, this was supposed to work, and that was supposed to work so well, and they're already like however many drawn up attempts to take your life, and it's really hard to face, because you see, these are the marauders out here that are attempting to murder in that fashion, covertly. They gotta feel damn ashamed of themselves. And it's really hard, because oftentimes when a person is so hard pressed in these fashions and they don't see through these things, they don't see through the demons, or say they aren't even working in that way, or can't see to work in that way, oftentimes these people do. They become killers. But that's just what I wanted to say there. You can't really murder a killer. Though what you're doing is murdering yourself, you see? Because it's like, if you kill one, you kill the whole world. That's really what it is. It's like, if you kill one, you kill the whole world in that way. And so what they're trying to do then is draw people up. They go back to the drawing boards, and they got to draw people up and make sure that they're so hard pressed that they become gone insane. They want to make it to where you're going to go insane. That's what the gaslighting does. That's what the poisons do, covertly or otherwise. Even if it gets you to just feel like, oh, you want to move differently, you don't know exactly what's going on, you don't feel good. And so it's a perfect way to push someone into addiction and into the process of that kind of addictive way. So when any kind of battle cry is taken upon you in that kind of way, and you make it through the gauntlet, it's a shame on them effect, because shame on them for thinking that they could do these things to you. And they don't have to like it. They're going to hate it. They're actually going to hate it because you made it through all of these events. And they didn't see you surviving not one of the attacks years ago, even. And so they aren't going to like that you're moving past their evil, or you're even trying to. The demons that they allow to come into play, they're liars, they're cheaters, they're conniving. They're just so not heart-centered and forthright or forthcoming in their ways. And so you might lose everything. You might lose everything again and again. And again. I'm praying in that way that and a reason I'm saying it that way is because my prayer values have been pushed. It's my testimony. So my prayers are, I don't want to lose my things for the fourth time. I worked so hard to get here. No one should have to go through what I went through way back then in the day. And they know that, and so they don't want you to be able to put two and two together. They thought that these plans would be shaking you to the core. And it's like, for what? For what? Is it worth it? The price of a person losing their soul? Or how about pushing a person off so bad that you're thinking you're spirit cooking them in order to prevent their growth, so that you can feel that because you got them pushed off into a certain way or a certain place, that all of a sudden those things make up for what that person really would be like. So just because they're lost off in a homeless shelter, or pushed off into a hold, or pushed off into some kind of institutionalized way, doesn't necessarily mean that these people were worth being institutionalized. What it means is that these people are putting a price tag on your soul, and they're trying to make that their gains. And not only for their gains of covering up other people's availability to reason through, to see, well, that person didn't deserve this, and to think to themselves that because they didn't deserve these certain things, obviously it changed their character, or because they didn't deserve these things happening to them, that maybe they aren't seeing the full picture. Well, and because you're trying to talk about many, many years, or I'm trying to talk about many, many years here, I have a lot of work to go through, you see. And so they wanted to stop me from being able to even take part, not only in my notebook work, but the work on my computer, the stuff that I had in journal, getting ripped away from me, things like that. And so they don't want other people to see that they don't deserve that, and being pushed off into homelessness, and then having to feel like they have to work as 18 hours plus all the time. Is that fair? Then they crawl up from under from a long time and a long extraneous poisoning periodically. You don't know these things though at the time. You just have that same feeling. You have that same pattern happening that I've tried to explain that happened when I was really young. I don't know how old I was. I think I was like 6 or 7. Maybe 8. I don't know. It was to the point where you don't at that age normally go and sleep in your bed with your mother, or a protector in that fashion, because you don't think that these things could be possible, right? But like I said, if you look at like the lines on a notebook, in like a notebook, imagine all of those lines all of a sudden being like the squiggles of an EKG, but just not an EKG that's like all you know, but the part kind of like shakes, you know, and it goes, you know, because it's reading the actual heart. But imagine all of those lines be like in every point, in every place, internally and externally, feeling like it's suffocating down to the cellular level, because that's what it feels like. It's all, everything's like this. Everything. So it's like all the corners of everything you see, the floor, because you're in so much pain at that young age that you can't even explain it. You're just, I don't know what's happened to me, and I don't know, I think something happened to me. So you feel like you're just losing it, because you truly are. You truly are. So if I have to give up my heart and soul for myself, it's not worth having. And so they may be able to shake things away from you and get away with doing these things to you, but so long as they don't shake your soul anymore, the ways that they have, you can actually thrive, finally. You could actually succeed and finally be set free from this. So you don't crumble. Even if the pressure keeps stacking up, sometimes God's got a better plan stored up in heaven, or your blessings can be held and kept for God's own purposes. You see, so when you cover your head to your toes in the armor of the Lord, armor of our dear Lord and Savior, you're actually putting on that armor, and it does protect you, because even if the pressures, like I said, keep stacking up against you, the heart's out here being deceived so bad. It's like the dreamers' dreams of the lost poet's art. The dreamers' dreams of the lost poet's art then gets their heart so badly dispersed, where you have to go into that spiritual battle in that way, to where you can actually try and stop these things from happening through your prayer value. You don't still know what's going on. You see, it's all covert. I'm talking from a place that I now know what's going on, so it's different than where I wanted to, than where I was actually writing to actually come out with. I was going to talk about conspiracy theories, like people were going to actually be thinking that these things weren't possible, but they are. And it actually helped me, because now that it went from the covert to overt, and it did in multiple areas, you see. It did in multiple areas. So in order to stay away from the poison, I knew I had to stay away from the people that were fronting to be friends, because friends aren't going to front like that, tell you the truth. Friends are going to be there. They're going to be lifelong partners with you until the end of time. But my lover's dreams was to be writing on love and devotion. My lover's dreams wanted to be writing about my poetry, my heart's work, where instead of it being working on the heart and working on these things that are happening to deceive you so badly, it was to work on things that mattered to me without all of the extraditional, quote unquote, help from these people, because their help was never help. And in order to have a crew where you're going to be forming that kind of franchise, or you're going to be forming that kind of business plan, if you don't have any fraternity out here, it's to leave you down and out really bad, and where people aren't supposed to even see you for where you're at. And if they can't see you for where you're at, then how can they help you? How can they actually suggest to themselves, oh my gosh, this is a big deal. We should really do something here. You see? And so it's not so much of like, okay, I'm going to admit, I got a lot of anger. I got a lot of fits of rage because of the ways that these things happened in my life. But even more so now that I'm out of that poisoned up way. Because when you're in it, you don't know what to do with it. You just don't have a reason. So when you come out of it, it's just like, oh my gosh, all of that rage that I actually felt that whole time was being masked. Much like, okay, a good example would be when you have a headache or you have pain and you take Tylenol. It actually goes in and works into brain receptors. The pain is still there, but your brain can't discover it, you see. So it's actually not a very good thing, if you really think about it. Unless you really need something, you probably shouldn't take it. But that being said, it's like that on a larger scale, where it's a block of a lot of time, and within that time that they're able to get away with those things, and then you do come out of it, and you're able to establish and focus on yourself, taking your energies back, then you're able to see all of that pain, all of the things that you lived through. And it's really hard to bring it out to somebody else to suggest that this is the way I was, because oftentimes the ways that I was wouldn't necessarily be helpful to other people, you see. If you weren't pushed off those ways, just in a little minuscule thing, is like someone explaining to you how to run the brakes and the computer work inside of running a program that's to set up your mills and set up things at where you're working, and then you have to constantly go back to them and ask them, what was this again? You mean you don't remember what I just told you like 20 minutes ago? You mean to tell me that you're fucking stupid? And excuse my language, but that's how a person feels. But they don't see that you're dealing with something bigger. And so you forgive them because they don't know something that you didn't know. But you're in that way still. You're poisoned, you're being controlled, you're being pushed around and prodded on, they're going back to their drawing boards. How can I ruin this guy? And so you have to go into your prayer value in that way, and then all of the treasures that are stored up in heaven can be blessings that the Lord can bring for the Lord's own purposes, you see. And if you ask for those things, then I believe that the Lord can do those things. And I believe the only way that it can actually be done is with your faith. If you don't have faith, if you go to the Lord about something and you don't have faith about that something, you go to the Lord about it and you can trust and believe in the Lord, right? You can take all the trust and belief in the Lord, but if it's separated from that faith, then it can't really happen. And so you need to be able to self-induce those kind of feelings inside to be able to think about and reason with, what could God bring to the table for you? And then you can trust it bigger. And if you go in that way, you can ask for stronger faith, you can ask for stronger trust, more love, more fervor for the Lord. But when the Lord blesses you, you'll feel it, and you'll know that it was from the Lord. You'll absolutely know it. They may have paid high prices to craft up on the very, very worst of you. And because they paid such high prices, that it's going to anger them that much more, you see. And not only that, but they're also worried about prison. They're worried about going to jail. And it's a lot of them. So they're like, okay, well, if we can't get rid of him, we're all messed. And they'll craft up on the very worst of you. That's where I was at. Sorry, I had to get back into my notes here sometimes to remember where I'm at. But what they're ultimately saying is no. But what they're ultimately saying is no for you. God can say yes. And I believe God is going to say yes. Because the answers from God are in the Bible. And it's amen and yes. Yes and amen. So when God's saying yes, nobody's can stop God saying yes. Nobody can stop when God is saying yes in your life. It cannot and absolutely will not work against you. And the reason I say this is because your origination of yourself is his. And it's like acting, and anybody to say anything different is like acting like their loving Father and Creator doesn't want his best for you when you know already that he does. And so it can't go to work against you, even if they mauraded you into an early grave. Sure, you maybe only got 0.00001% of your actual organic life, but you know there's a heaven on the other side of this. So we pray about those kinds of things. I write on those kinds of things, and I want to proclaim it then and say yes. They do not vibe with you. They do not get to vibe with you anymore. They can't vibe with you, right? Because the things that are happening inside of them on a conscious level is this really sucks. This really sucks because they know for themselves that they were supposed to be carrying that light and they didn't. And because they didn't and they needed to figure a way to push you off so that you were gone and that you were never going to be able to figure it out. Because I think oftentimes these people changed their tune, changed their minds, said things here and there, and moved a certain way and acted a certain way. And, all of these pieces eventually line up. But when you're masked off, you're not going to be able to necessarily put those pieces together. But you can write these pieces down, and they could come to help you in the future. So that's why I've said in my prior work, I think it's very important to write before you speak, because how are you going to speak if you don't know the words that you're trying to get to write? And with me, I had to practice that. That's why I was so gung-ho. I'm like, I have to learn how to rap then. Because if I don't learn how to utilize my words, I'm not going to be able to remember the words, and the short-term memory loss that you'll have for a while, you're going to deal with it for a long while before you can come out to yourself and come out of that place to then be able to utilize your words in a correct fashion. So that's where they want to push you, even in courts, even in certain situations, life scenarios. They want to push you in a way that's going to make you not be able to remember these things so that they can move on your life and push you off in that way. You see what I'm saying? I believe it could be said a lot better, but ultimately it takes time to come out of a place that like that. And so when when this friend wanted to like bring me a plate and like in that kind of fashion, suggesting he would bring me some food, well, like if you really cared, for months on end you could have shown up with a Cub Foods gift card or something. Like I've never actually gotten anything from him before in that way. I mean, not anything, but I think even things that you get from these people, it's very scary because if you say want to take some kind of holistic vibe with them and show up to like take from somebody's hands that you trust but you shouldn't, and you take that, say it's like a ginger shot or something like that, these things can be gamed up. They can be part of the game. And I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying that this scenario happened exactly like that at all. What I'm saying though is that when there's people that need to side with the cipher of that mauraders vision, they're gonna be trying to get that next party involved quicker than you can find somebody that can actually suggest to you, I love you and I'm not going anywhere and I'm not willing to do what these other people did, and money don't mean a thing to me over you. You would know what I mean? And that's what true love should be like. And so the feeling of love and trust, and you know that you don't feel those ways, and so because you don't get to feel that love in the same way that you felt love for them, you know that they can't rock with you no more. And it's sad because you wanted to be able to be and stay blessed up with these people, like with them truly, but you may be meek and humble. You may come about things right, but to remain steadfast in the Lord's kingdom, you have to focus first on the Lord's kingdom first. And I think the important part about that is the 10 Commandments. And though we're not all perfect, are you working towards that in a forthright way, in a forthcoming way, or are you just gonna F off, so to speak, And it's or play fuck all over a person's life. It's not right when these people can think of doing that instead of placing the utmost importance in their life and connecting it to you. So you're choosing to take up staff. You're choosing to take the staff in your better light with your energy, your autonomy, and walk away. You deserve to feel light. You deserve to feel what you felt in the zest for life when you were younger, even in old age, or even as you grow up. You shouldn't ever feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And you just can't think of why, or you can't get through it because of the poisoning. Your reasoning skills are junk. And you don't understand why. So when you come out of these ways, your reasoning skills get a little better, a lot better. And then when memories flood back to you and they're like, oh, you got selective memory when you've just been in survival mode the whole time. You're having survival memories rolling back into you about these things of very much importance. And so they're very on point, and that's why they're trying to shake up the claim that they're not. That's why they're trying to shake up the claim that somehow you trying to walk in your magic in that way and walk within your magnetic purposes in life is somehow going to be the thing that hurts them the most. Because who are they to work up in the first place to go up against your light and to devise others in the way others see you in your own light? Who are they to be working in and walking into your area with that kind of darkness, that kind of created proxy war, those smear campaigns, their gaslighting attempts, their emotional warfare, spiritual warfare? They're not going to walk with you anymore. Because they can't, you see. That's why oftentimes they run away after doing certain things in this fashion, because they need to make it that that's where they went to, or that's where they wanted you to think that's where they were going. Or they do go to those links and jump all the way across the country. And so if people can't see those things and how those things can come about, and how the players with what they do for work and who they are, and put 2 and 2 together, 4 and 4 together, and just like, you know, the law suggests that you need all this proof, right? Well, when rich people need proof, they have the cameras in their houses, on their doorknobs, whatever. They got it all over the place, you know. But when you're decimated in this fashion and you don't even have the law to suggest, like, we should be able to do investigative work based on a guy coming out for a whole fucking year about a crime that's happened to his whole life. And if they don't, then obviously they work within that doppelganger crew. So who's throwing who under the bus? They're all throwing each other under the bus. Their actions, their motives, the time they're leaving as the marauders get away. And ultimately, even when you go in, trying to not, like, you're trying to not because you have a lot to take care of now, correct? You don't have that support system that thinks to themselves, well, even just going over and helping the guy, like, I don't know, helping your fellow mate, like, with just whatever, you know? It's not asking for a whole lot. But these people, if anything that you're asking forward towards your success is asking for a lot. So you're not going to just walk away now when they have come up against you so bad, and that they move this way. It's like, who in the fuck would deal with that? Excuse my language, I'm swearing in this one like a sailor. But the fact of the matter is that oftentimes people don't have control of these things, because now you're planning, and you've been planning, mind you, to win, solid win after win after win. And you really deserve it, because they came up against you in ways that nobody should ever try to devise to come up against another man. and especially not his fellow man. And that's the saddest part about these proxy wars, is that oftentimes it takes time to figure these things out. It leaves the vulnerable completely lost on themselves. And then the victims of that very cold-blooded way feels like these people have allowed for so many demons to come in. And then it's not really, it is demonic oppression because of them, but it's not unresolved issues of in here. It's unresolved issues of what they're doing, of how they're moving, how their consciences feel, you see. And I'm not suggesting that any of us should be above one another at all. I'm not. We should all be on an equal playing field here. But oftentimes, it don't matter if you're in a church or you're in a school or you're wherever. The fact of the matter is that there is controversial energies, even within the church I grew up at. I should bring this up because it's a big deal. Is that even because of the situations that were at play, it would force certain drama to like just create and just push and just like make fun of. And it's the littlest things, right? It's the littlest things, but it's the exact words that we're going to that church to find out in the Gospels about, that suggest that they're just being cold and that they really don't know what they're doing either, you see. And from my stance, it doesn't matter where it doesn't matter if they're able to get to that place in these ways, because there's so many people that would not want me to be there in the first place. That's kind of like what soul cooking is, or that spirit cooking is. It's making sure that you don't have the time, energy, resource, or anything to be able to move that way. And so even when I've gone to a church nearby, and many times have, it feels very lonely. It feels very empty. It feels very, I don't fit in. These people don't know what it's like with what I'm saying, or these people wouldn't know what it's like with what I'm going through here. You see? And so it's very blanketed in a way, because, I go into some places in a fashion, and it's just like, you ultimately feel like you're not welcome, or you ultimately maybe not welcome, but you ultimately just don't feel right, or you don't feel good within yourself with what you're going through, and you don't want to like bring that kind of pressure around, other people's families, other people's children, or just like I have a problem with smoking. I'm trying to like do my due diligence and trying not to as much as possible. But that's just one of the things. That's just a small fraction of that scent, I believe, that arsenic does to a person. And not only that, but what's worse is if you look at what metformin does and the side effects of metformin. So now you've got that on top of that on top of that. And so, granted, I would love to be able to move out from those ways and be able to work on my mission, which I had written up. And my mission was to be able to not only write this up, but work the mission. Not, I'm just going to write it, not do anything about it. Well, the fact of the matter is that these people knew that. So that's when the poisons and stuff got that much worse, you see. That's when she needed to gain even that much more trust in me than she she already had lost before when I was at work, thinking, I just want to move away from this for right now. Like, I don't think you're being my friend. I think you're being controlling, biatch. No offense, but that's ultimately what I was thinking. And I don't want to say it that way. I just felt like, hey, it's my right to my autonomy to say, like, don't come to my work like this all the time. It's unfair to me. And then you're playing on my emotions when I'm not allowing you to come, suggesting that you're going to be like with somebody else or whatever. It's just not the energy that you want. But at the same time, you're poisoned up. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You see? And so the saddest part about these proxy wars, man, is just the fact that it does push you off to be so vulnerable. You do lose your sense of agility. And then victims of this very cold-blooded way is allowing for these demons to come in, perform in their dark occultist's design just fine. Paid shelves, paid this, paid that. No one's going to actually work that way unless they're working that way, and if they're your true friend, and if they're people that you can rely on just in a forthright and forthcoming way. Even, you can say to that person, look, like, I don't feel comfortable with this right now, and I just want to be left alone for a while so I can think and I can reason through and I can try and figure out who I am. You know what I mean? So I can try and figure out who I am, because I do care about you, but I need to figure out the care that I have about me. Because right now I was telling her, in that moment I was telling her, you're getting in the way of my availability to me, to care about myself, you see? And I wanted to move away from that. And then that's just when it, hearts get scattered up with the truth, and they need to maneuver and gain your trust and make you feel good and loving, but it's all a proxy. It's all design. Because within that war, in that way, over the hearts of the people that stand in truth, that stand in that light, they're going to be designing up with cover-ups, smear campaigns, spreading lies, writing things to put contents of a person's character together while they're sitting there playing with fire with their life, you see? And then playing in this kind of way within the crimes against humanity, it's going to make you feel pretty low and lonely, even around them, because they're not moving in any formidable fashion for you. If they had been, they would have been there for you. They would have been more than willing to have that conversation with you. I care about somebody enough in that fashion, and they aren't doing these kind of things, I'd be willing to step to the plate and get punched in the fucking face. You feel that way about me, and I'm not in it? Okay. We're gonna go toe to toe then, if you need to. I guess it's just a difference of a character. It's a difference of opinion. Because these people need to move away thinking, well,